Welcome to The Magic of Positive Thinking, a podcast hosted by Norb Svanascini, founder of AmericanEagle.com, and writer Al Edwards. Norb, the first thing I want to say to you is Happy New Year, 2025.
Incredible. We have to thank the Lord for the gift he gives us for every day. And if you can survive the year, thank for the year.
It's a great thing.
It's a great present. And now it's a new year, so we're all waiting how great this one will be.
That's right. So I always ask people this. So you've talked about many times how you grew up in the fabulous 50s, a great time.
Yeah.
Did you ever think in the 1950s, did you ever think about the year 2025?
No. And, it's kind of funny. I'm sure everybody does this. I always thought about the year 2000.
Right.
That, oh my God, am I gonna be alive at the year 2000?
Right.
And what will the year 2000 be like? And it was really something.
And they had all these projections like flying cars and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars, but we kind of got that a little bit. They're still working on that a little bit.
Flying cars. There are some.
Yeah,
there are some.
They keep hitting things. That's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah. Each other.
They keep hitting each other. Well, friends, in addition, easy for me to say, in addition to it being a new year, this also is our third anniversary show. So happy anniversary, Norb.
Yep. It's amazing. We've done this thing for 3 years, and with all sincerity, it seems like we started yesterday.
Yeah. We've had a lot of fun, and
we have.
We hope that other people have had a lot of fun. So, well, in commemoration of all those things, friends, we have a special show because we want to start everyone off right for the new year. And the title of today's show is Ask Norb. And I have to say, if you do not know Norb Svanascini, I feel sad for you because he has been such a great influence on so many people, particularly at our company here at AmericanEagle.com. You and I have known each other since 1979, and it is now 2025.
Yeah. Too long.
When Norb asks, how long have you known Al? He always says, too long. But we're going to start the year with Ask Norb, because Norb is so respected and so wise that I went around to several people and asked some questions that they wanted to know your perspective on. So he has not seen these questions, by the way. So we're waiting to hear some impromptu.
And this was not my idea, by the way, because I don't know why I should be, answering these. But out of respect for Al, once in a while he has a good idea. We'll see if this is one of them.
Well, thank you. So in other words, if this show goes in the dumper, you're going to blame me, right?
It's you, brother.
Okay. All right. That's how it goes. Well, the first one, as someone who has achieved success in both business and family life, what advice can you share for parents on how to nurture their children's potential to be successful in life?
Well, it's kind of interesting because a lot of people ask me that question. I had a very, very good marriage. I married a lady that she put up with me, and that's, the best thing. But I think, one of the things about approaching life, and this is a show about being positive. And I think I've always been positive in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, not everything comes out like you want it to, but if you're positive, you have a really good chance of coming out of just about anything and accepting the results, and going back to the things we talk about all the time. Just take, adversities as just a learning curve, I had something that happened to me this week that's kind of a sad story in a way, but in a way it's positive because I had a guy that helped me. I have a home, and I've known him for a couple of years, and he was just a phenomenal guy, phenomenal. And he didn't have a really good life, and he had a little drinking problem, but the guy was just a super, super guy.
Could fix anything.
Yeah, could fix anything, and he knew about stuff that, I'm a city guy, and I never knew anything about, the country and trees and bees and wasps and all that. And this guy really is incredible, and all that he knew, and he added so much to my life. And unluckily, he had a heart attack and he passed away last week, and which was
So
a real
sad.
shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the same time, he started listening to the podcasts and stuff, and he really liked them. And he said,
wow.
"God, you made my life better, and
Wow.
I want to thank you." And he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend says, "God, you can't imagine how much he liked to talk to you." And so, it feels good. And I think that going back to your question, I think that if you're just, nice to people like we always talk about, and be positive about life, I didn't intend to learn about trees and snakes and all that stuff because the only time I had an experience with a snake was one time I was playing golf and I stepped on one, and I proved that a man can jump upwards and sideways simultaneously.
At the same time.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah. And honest to God, it was really an experience. But it's just a positive thing knowing that you made somebody's life a little better, even if it ends in a tragedy.
Right.
And, with the kids, I always, the same thing. I was involved with everything they did, and I always taught them to be positive and to learn every day something. I mean, just, we talked about Goya, get off your arm, not arm.
Not arm.
And,
another A word.
That was
another
one of
body
the things
part.
about, with my kids and with my wife, like every marriage, we had discussions and sometimes we were angry at each other, but I always made fun of it. And she used to say, "I hate you for this," but she started laughing.
Right.
That, made it okay.
Right.
So I think the secret really has been that I've always been positive about life, and I practice it, and that's why I like to talk about it, because it's something I know about.
Sure.
I know that the results are good.
Right. Well, I was just a kid, but I was around when you were a young father, and looking back at that time all the way up to this time. And I think what you're saying is you were an example for all of your children about positivity and perseverance, and you fed the soil of their brains with good stuff. And they showed you, they saw you working hard and never giving up. And I think the answer to that question is you just are a great example for your kids of, if you want them to be a certain way, be an example of that for them.
Well, I think that's probably something that I think works in life. You have to have an example, You have to have some respect for something. And, one of the greatest things that happened to me, I don't know if we talked about this, but my father was involved in an incredible accident one time. And he was 49 years old. And he was driving with another gentleman. He wasn't the driver. The other gentleman was the driver. They had a head-on crash. The other gentleman died.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
And my father was hospitalized for 3 months. And everybody thought he didn't have a chance to survive it. For some reason or other, I always knew he would survive it, okay? Had a very interesting experience with a doctor that took care of him, because the doctor confessed to him that before he saw my father survive this, he never believed in God.
Wow.
But how he saw that my father recovered, that was it. But the rest of the story is, you always look at an example about ethics and to do what's right. My father was a very, very nice guy. He really was. And there was a lawsuit about this. And what happened was that there was a lady that was passing a truck on the wrong lane in a curve.
Right.
And of course, my dad and the driver did not see her until the last moment. They had a head-on crash. But lawyers, as they are, unluckily, some of them, they told my father that it was going to be a lawsuit and that they were going to go after the truck.
Right.
And obviously, the truck was not at fault at all. But they told my dad, now, you have to say that the truck did this and the truck was at fault. And my father did not do it.
He refused to do that.
He refused to do it. And, you never realize what an impact that has on somebody, and we always talk about this. And doing the right thing is really something that should be very important in our lives, and we're not perfect. Listen, I've made mistakes, plenty of them, but that example of doing the right thing, you know, not prostituting yourself for money, you know.
Right.
It was a great example. Probably as great an example to me as anything.
It's anything, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer. Be the person you want your kids to be.
Yeah,
that's it.
And obviously, I always told that story to my kids.
Right.
And I hope it's transferred down,
Oh, I believe it has for sure.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about all these questions is I know the answer to most of these questions.
Well, you should. You've known me long
I've known
enough.
you for 46 years. So now this is a fun one because I do know about this. Who were your mentors as a young person, and what do you remember most about them? And I know you're going to bring up the bicycle store and the men's clothing store. So how did those guys talk about those guys, and how did they influence your life?
Well, obviously I just talked about my dad, and that was probably terrific. But the one person that really gave me something fantastic, and I hope to share it with everybody, was my algebra teacher, who was Miss Rucker was her name, and she was a really nice lady, and I've always been good at math, and she used to get mad at me because when she taught algebra, I would solve the problem before anybody else, but I didn't do it through algebra. I just did it through just plain math. You
didn't show your work.
And she used to say, you shouldn't do that. You should learn the process. I said, okay, I know the process, but I can figure out faster. But she told me something once that has really helped me in life. And I hope to share this with everybody because this is a fact. You have a test and you have multiple answers.
Mm-hmm.
And you write it down and then you think about it and you say, well, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's this one. And so you change the answer. And this is what she told me. Always stick with the first feeling.
Right.
The first feeling is the right feeling. And that's helped me a lot in life.
Yeah, you can apply that to your whole life.
Yeah. And that's probably the one thing that I've recommended the most. But going back to the clothing store,
this was in Bloomington, Indiana, in the 1950s.
Indiana. Yeah, and I had two guys that were partners, and they used to tell jokes all the time, and it was really nice. And I don't know if this is something that's something that were my mentors. They were in a way, but the funniest part about these two guys is that they used to play hearts, okay, and they would play for like $2, $3. So I was really good at hearts, and I would beat them. But because I was the lowest employee, as soon as I beat them, they made me sweep the floor or do something really,
they punished
that
you
they
for
didn't
it.
want to do, just like vengeance.
Right.
So I would establish rules before we started. Now, if I beat you, I don't have to sweep the floor. So I don't know if that's a lesson or not, but it was a lesson in
That's funny.
establishing the rule.
Yeah.
Before
you get into something.
Get in.
But
now, the bicycle guy, he was a guy that was Frank Gotzi was his name. Phenomenal guy. And he was manager of a furniture company for many years. And then when he retired, he bought a hobby and bicycle shop. Okay. Just to keep busy. And I was a bicycle repairman, and I used to also I flew model airplanes. So I used to make money in that store. And at the end of the week, I'd pay
spend
him.
it, just give it back to him.
Because I bought so much stuff from him. But he told me I would be repairing bikes, and there was a Coke machine with a lever, and it was a nickel a Coke, and he'd buy me a Coke. Norb, you want a Coke? Yeah. Okay. And then he'd tell me things about business, and he told me two things. One of them, which has not been helpful now in my life, but it was very helpful. Everybody went to the armed services back then. You went to the Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever. And he told me in high school never to take typing, never. And I said, why? Because he says, when you're in the armed service, somebody's going to ask, who can type? And then, of course, you lift your hand automatically. And then they send you to the typing pool where there's like 7, 8 people typing. And from the general to the second lieutenant, everybody's your boss. And all you're doing all day is typing. And it's a horrible thing to do. So never learn how to type. Of course, he didn't know about computers coming.
Right.
And I still type with 2 fingers because I took his advice of not learning how to type.
Hunt and peck.
Yeah. But the one thing he told me, which I really, really love this, and it's funnier than all get out, but it's true. He used to say, if you can't stick it in the trunk of your car, it's not an asset, it's a liability.
Wow. Now, what does that mean?
That means that, some people have a big house, but it's not an asset really, because you can't put it in the trunk of your car and leave, But when you think what's important, if you can put it in the trunk of your car and leave and go some other place, that's really an asset,
Oh, so in other words, you're not tied down.
You're not tied down. Yeah. And obviously, I don't practice that. I have some things that I can't put in the trunk of my car, but the important ones, they should. So get a big car with a big trunk.
Yeah. Well, in the 50s, cars had huge trunks.
Oh, yeah. My God. Yeah.
You could put a lot of assets in there.
Oh, yeah.
That is great advice, actually. I think that's applicable today.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is one that's been asked before, but I think I know the answer. Maybe not, because there's few, but Norb, what is your favorite movie and why?
I saw a movie with my dad in 1953 in Bloomington. He took me to see this movie that he had seen before. And the movie is High Noon. If you haven't seen that movie, watch it, because it's probably the most realistic movie about life and how people really act under different circumstances that I've ever seen. And I've seen that movie maybe 100 times, and it gets better every time I watch.
As you evolve and change as a human being, the movie doesn't change, but you change, so it has more meaning for you as time goes on.
Well, the movie it's an incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, the movie lasts an hour and a half, and it's actually takes place in that hour and a half, which is kind of interesting. And it was the first movie that Grace Kelly was in, by the way.
Wow.
And it was Gary Cooper. He won an Oscar for it, by the way. The movie is just phenomenal because it shows what people will do under different circumstances. I hate to talk about it because I could talk about it for hours, but it's just a phenomenal movie. It left a really deep impression on me, and it's as good as
anything else. Wow.
Yeah, any movie I've ever seen.
And then another, of course, favorite of yours, which we just all had an opportunity to see on the big screen, was It's a Wonderful Life, and the meaning of that for you.
Yeah, and yeah, I saw that one when I was a kid in Argentina, and as a kid, it really left an impression on me because it's true. What would life be if you haven't been here? And I think that it applies a lot about being positive.
Mm-hmm.
If you leave with a positive input on what you've done, man, you've had a hell of a life, and what is life about anyway?
Right.
If you can't contribute something to make the world a little better.
Right. And if you were not here, how the world had changed. So it gives you a wonderful opportunity. Life gives you a wonderful opportunity to make a positive impact.
Yeah. There's a show on TV that I recommend on PBS. It's about, they take famous people and they actually trace.
Tracing your roots, I think it's called.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And they go back, especially in the Oriental area, because they kept incredible records, the Koreans, the Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
They go back thousands of years, And when you think that you are the result of all these generations,
random elements of happening,
and what all these people did, they traveled and they fought wars and everything, and the odds of you being you,
right,
is probably close to mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
So it is an incredible gift, and if you don't appreciate, you're a fool, man.
Right.
I tell you. Yeah.
The gift of being here.
Yeah.
Basically.
The gift of being here.
Well, the next two questions I think I can ask as one, because I think they are pretty much the same thing. Norb has owned a lot of businesses over the years, and he specialized in taking businesses that were not doing well and turning them around. And the question is, what did you look for in people when you considered hiring them? And then the same question is, what impresses you in people?
Honesty. Yeah, just be honest. It's kind of funny. You watch all these politicians and everything, and I don't care what party they're from. They're all, it's kind of funny because there's no profession that requires less knowledge than to be a politician. Yeah. So, and whenever you ask them a question, they kind of just, give you some complicated answer or a statistic that fits there. I mean, they're on a percentage basis, it's a big percentage of dishonesty.
Right.
And I've always liked honesty. If you screw up, say I screwed up.
Right.
And I've always admired that in people. Obviously, if I had a person that screwed up a lot, I would have a talk with them.
Right, exactly.
But usually, if you treat them human and they see that, you tell them, well, I screw up too, so don't do it again. And
right.
And I think honesty is really, it goes back to Mark Twain. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
Right, absolutely.
What a relief not to have to remember anything.
I love that. That.
What a relief. I mean.
And, the many people you've hired over the years, obviously, have to have some skills or whatever they were trying to do, but you hired people more for the people than necessarily for the skill, who they were as a person.
Yeah. Obviously, I made some mistakes in life, like you.
Like when I came on board, I'm aware.
But no, what's interesting? I had a guy to work with me for 24 years. Just a magnificent guy, Mexican kid, and I found he was a busboy, and I saw this guy that did the job of 3 people in the restaurant. He was smiling. He was probably 16 years old, and he was smiling, wiping tables, putting water, serving coffee, and I was my dad. I had a business with my dad. And I said, we got to hire this kid. And my dad even made the comment, well, how can you make a decision like that? I said, well, look at this guy.
Right.
Now this guy went to the 2nd grade. When he came to the U.S., he never saw a toilet. And 24 years he worked with me. Not only did he work with me, he still is a very good friend,
Right.
Just a quality super guy. And we had a lot of fun together. I mean, and he'd come to my office. He quit like every 3 days because he was bad at something. I had to sit down with him, and just a phenomenal guy. Yeah, but I a personality, and just the attitude in life is more important than anything.
Right.
It doesn't. There's guys with PhDs that have an attitude of a horse.
Right.
So I wouldn't hire them for anything because I wouldn't want them around him.
Right. Here's a good one. What does it truly mean to be successful in life? What is success?
The inner feeling of being satisfied of your life.
What you set out to do, you did, or if you weren't able to, at least you gave it your all.
Yeah. It's what the decision my dad made about that truck, made him successful. I don't care what else he did in life. That was success.
What role does money play in life?
Well, it's stupid to say it's not important, but Henry Ford said, don't do things for money. By just doing a good job, money is the result. So, the best advice is do a good job. Money will come, and it'll come. We've talked about this actually. It's in The Strangest Secret and all that.
Abundantly.
Yeah, it's. But listen, it's a nice thing to have. I mean, you probably, but there's a lot of people with money that are really miserable,
right?
And I know a lot of them,
right?
They have terrible problems with their children, with drugs, with depression, and all that. Hell, I kept my kids so busy they couldn't be depressed. I mean,
right.
Really, depression wasn't in our dictionary.
So focus on success as you define it, and money and a lot of other good things will come.
Yeah. There's a great movie that it's Cinema Paradiso, and if you never watched that one, it's also a masterpiece. But there's a moment where this old man that this young man really respects tell him to get out of this town and don't look back, and whatever you do, love it.
Wow.
And it's great advice. And in the movie, obviously, this young man grows up and he is very successful. But if you love whatever you do, you'll be successful in life. You can't help it.
Right.
Because if you do a good job, everybody will want you. Everybody. Even if a company goes broke, the guy who was had another company, a competitor, knows about you and he'll hire you right away.
In 3 seconds, yeah. I heard this phrase, and let me just make sure I get it right. People who make a lot of money are not successful. Successful people make a lot of money, and they could be broke and still be successful.
Oh, there's tons of stories like that. Tons of stories like that. Who was the guy who produced Around the World in 80 Days?
Oh boy.
Married to Elizabeth Taylor.
Richard Burton?
No.
Todd?
Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting story because he was a producer and he died very young from an airplane accident, I think. But the story about that guy is just incredible because he went broke so many times. It was incredible. Well, we talked about Walt Disney. I mean, Walt Disney gambled everything, but he did what he loved. And Todd made movies,
Right.
And he did what he
Michael
loved.
Todd.
Michael Todd.
That was his name.
Yeah. And okay. Shoot.
One last question. If you could have dinner with any famous historical person who is no longer here, who would it be and what would you talk about?
Thomas Jefferson.
And what would you say to him?
God bless you.
You'd say thank you, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's interesting. You told me one time Henry Ford too.
Yeah, Henry Ford. I that's another guy, Thomas said it. Just think, if you read about these people, instead about reading about garbage, which unluckily most people do, these were wonderful guys, just beyond belief. They changed the world. I mean, right now, Thomas Jefferson, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, they changed the world. The world was nothing like that before.
To this day.
To this day.
And the neat thing about it, friends, is we always repeat, is that these people were just as human as you and I. They were just people.
Had to go to the bathroom every day, brother.
Just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So we have not many people have the opportunity to impact the world like Jefferson or Ford or Edison, but in our own little world, we can impact people.
Yeah. Just make the world a little better.
Pick up that little piece of paper.
And that was the last question?
That's the last question.
Okay. And this fits it, but I just read something I want to share with you, Scott. If you've ever spent more than 15 minutes on any social media or news platform, you probably encountered rage bait. Misleading headlines, out-of-touch opinions, nonsensical commentary that can actually be intentionally ridiculous, designed to make viewers click, view, and write scathing rebuttals in the comments sections. Like it or not, it annoys us. If it annoys us, the longer we will remember it. This is exactly what the creators of this content want. A 1923 PEW research study found that 65% of Americans adults find thinking about politics is exhausting, while another 55% stated that thinking about politics makes them angry. So, I want to finish with this. Eliminate this from your life. It doesn't matter, people. I'm in my 80s. I've never heard news that didn't have some kind of crisis. Never.
Right.
And you know what? It doesn't matter. 95% of the stuff you worry about will never happen.
Keep the garbage out of your head.
Keep the garbage out of your head. Look at positive stuff. Get a book about Jefferson and Adams, how they wrote letters to each other that were precious, and everything was to make a better country, and they really discussed it. It wasn't this anger we have today that somebody's wrong and I'm right and blah, 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 blah. No. These guys actually sat down and said, let's make the country better,
Right.
And that's why I think you can be successful as a family with your children. Talk in a positive manner. How do we make this thing better?
Absolutely. Well, I've said on this show a million times, I don't watch the news. I refuse to watch the news.
Well, I wish I could be like that. I do watch them, and it does make you angry,
Yeah.
But by the same token, I think I have enough discipline to, still be positive about it. When you look at the news and you watch all these people, you got to be thankful that you're not that kind of an idiot.
Right.
No, I mean that.
Makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because who can you respect? You know, you watch all these senators and all these people talking about stupidities that they know nothing about.
Right.
And you say, boy, thank God I'm not like that. So, you know, that's the way to be positive, I guess. So
I love it. Well, I think this has been an incredible show. Norb, thank you for your insight and your humor and your perspective. And I know there's a lot of people who listen to this show that are really going to love this one, because I think it was a really unique opportunity to hear from the man himself. So,
well, thank you. Al.
Thank you for that. Well, friends, we hope to see you on our next show. And for Norb Svanascini, this is Al Edwards, and we will definitely see you next time. Take care.
God bless.